Mangwanani mwalelepo vukenjani kwas vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening in the SADC region and beyond. As usual, you are joined by Ashwin Berry and Aina Raiza Kweyo.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Today is World Calligraphy Day. Each script has its own calligraphic and cultural history. It is more a question of matching different calligraphic styles to one another without the features of the script dominating another. And here is more on World Calligraphy Day. Welcome back to Africa Good Morning, and here are the news making headlines. Dozens of civilians massacred in militant raids on villages. At least 51 villages were massacred by suspected extremists in northern Mali over the weekend, authorities said on Monday. Gunmen stormed 3 villages near Mali's border with Niger, according to a military official who spoke to news agency AFP. According to the source, the terrorists went into the villages and massacred everyone. The officials, whose identity was not revealed for security reasons, said 20 civilians were massacred in Karum, 14 civilians were killed in Otagona, and other civilians were killed in the hamlet of Dogtef. Meanwhile, in the neighboring Burkina Faso, 12 troops were killed and 8 others were wounded in an ambush on the northern west of the country. In response to the deadly ambush, President Roch Marc Christian tweeted, "We continue to wage without concession the war of the obscurantist and barbaric forces who have imposed on our country."
In our second story, Tanzania President Samia, we are here to show that women can lead. Tanzania's president has said there were people who doubted she was qualified to lead when she first became head of state because she was a woman. Some don't believe that women can be better presidents, and we are here to show them, Samia Suluhu Hassan told BBC. In March, the 61-year-old was sworn in after her predecessor died in office. She is currently Africa's only female political head of state. Even some of my government workers dismissed me at first as just another woman, but they soon accepted my leadership, Ms. Samia said. But this is not just in Africa. Even in America, Hillary Clinton reached a place where we thought she was going to be the president, but she couldn't, she added.
In our next story, first case of Marburg virus detected in West Africa after men die in Gokadu. The first case of Marburg virus have been confirmed in West Africa after a man dies of the homographic fever disease in Guinea. The virus, which belongs to the same family as Ebola, spreads to human through bodily fluids and can have a fatality rate of up to 88%. Symptoms include high fever and muscle pain, but some patients later suffer bleeding from their eyes to ears. After the male patient sought treatment and died in Gaokadu, the case was confirmed by the laboratory in Guinea and again by the Institute of Pasteur in nearby Senegal.
In our next story, global response needed to counter rising security threats at sea. Despite an overall decrease in maritime traffic due to the COVID-19 pandemic, piracy and armed robbery of ships rose by nearly 20% during the first half of last year, a senior UN official told the Security Council on Monday. Addressing a high-level debate on enhancing security for seafarers, Maria Luisa Ribeiro Viotti, the UN Secretary General's chef de cabinet, highlighted the need for stronger international cooperation. These growing and interlinked threats call for a truly global and integrated response, a response that addresses these challenges directly as well as their root causes, including poverty, a lack of alternative livelihoods, insecurity, and weak governance structures. Maritime security is also being undermined by challenges around contested boundaries and navigation routes and depletion of natural resources through illegal or unreported fishing, Ms. Viotti added.
In our next story, fraudulent COVID-19 compensation lottery prize scam falsely alleges association with the WHO and others. The World Health Organization has been made aware of correspondence being circulated by scammers, falsely notifying recipients of such correspondence that they have been selected as a beneficiary of $1 million lottery compensation prize payment for losses and damages suffered as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. These fraudulent correspondents falsely allege that the so-called COVID-19 lottery compensation prize is brought to you by WHO in association with the International Monetary Fund and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. In addition, these scams seek to obtain personal details, in some cases money from the recipients of such fraudulent correspondences, including but not limited to by request recipients to urgently send the scammers personal information in order to enable the scammers to process the fraudulent lottery compensation prize payment.
You know, there's something to be said about people who scam others using a pandemic, and none of it is good. We move over to our next story. Malawi Energy Minister arrested over corruption allegations. Malawi's Energy Minister Newton Kambala has been arrested for allegedly trying to influence the way that contracts for the supply of oil were awarded, the country's anti-corruption bureau has said in a brief statement. Two others, the president of the Alliance for Democracy Party, Enoch Chihana, and the presidential advisor, Chris Chayima Banda, have also been detained. The ACB alleged that the two men aided the minister when he attempted to influence the award of the contract to supply 40,000 metric tons of fuel. On his Facebook page, Enoch Chihana wrote that talking to the ACB was a normal legal process, and for me it is an opportunity to clear my name of any wrongdoing. The other two men have not commented.
In our next story, vaccine divide underscore the moral bankruptcy of the West. Despite lofty promises by rich nations to give away doses, COVID-19 vaccination in poorer countries is making little headway. For months, the World Health Organization Director Tedros Ghebreyesus has been tirelessly reminding rich industrialized nations of their moral obligation to provide coronavirus vaccine to the world's poorest countries. He underscored his appeal by calling for a global moratorium on booster shots until at least October, questioning how the global north could begin administering booster doses of COVID-19 vaccine at a time where healthcare workers in almost every country in Africa remain unvaccinated. Oyade Alakija of Africa's Union's African Vaccine Delivery Alliance for COVID has already warned the EU Commission and France that COVAX vaccination initiative launched by the WHO in April 2020 is in danger of failing. For the sake of humanity, however, it must not fail, she said. COVAX was designed to facilitate the delivery of vaccine doses paid for by rich countries to the poor. But of the 640 million doses scheduled to be delivered by nearly August, just 163 million have arrived.
In our next story, Ugandan critic in Turkey to face 15 cases. Police in Uganda say they have 15 complaints on file against Turkey-based Ugandan blogger and government critic Fred Lumbuye. Mr. Lumbuye, whose content is mostly in the Luganda language, is linked to igniting speculation in June about President Yoweri Museveni's health. President Museveni subsequently issued a directive for the arrest of people who use social media to publish misinformation and fake news. Last week, Uganda Ugandan government officials said that the blogger, who is popular on Facebook, had been arrested and would be extradited home to face charges. In one of his videos, he gave his followers tips on how to make patrol bombs to throw at the security forces who regularly violently dispersed opposition supporters. He has also previously alleged in his tweets that the media had been paid to promote COVID-19. Lawyers have told the BBC they are trying to fight Mr. Lumbuya's deportation. If he is extradited, it will be unprecedented, as Uganda has not tried to have critics abroad brought home for trial before.
In our next story, UN says 90,000 affected by flooding in South Sudan. About 90,000 people have been affected by flash flooding in South Sudan, Eastern Jonglei State, the UN Humanitarian Affairs Agency says. The UN said local authorities had reported over 70,000 affected people in Ayad and Canal countries, and many were experiencing this for the second time since May. It said they faced acute humanitarian needs, with thousands now marooned on the island, surrounded by water, sheltering under trees and unable to cross to safety. Heavy rains have submerged homes and agricultural fields, forcing families and their livestock to flee to higher ground. What is occurring in Ayad is a disastrous example of how a changing climate disrupts the normal patterns and intensifies the effects of flooding, leaving people disorientated and disposed, said Arafat Jamal, the acting OCHA coordinator in South Sudan. He called for urgent food assistance, shelter, kitchen items, medicine, and access to clean water.
In our next story, rampant plant smuggling threatening species. The poaching of succulent plants in Kenya is quite rampant. A Kenyan botanist is quoted in the UK's Daily Telegraph as saying, when you look through the international catalogues, you will find a lot of Kenyan plants. They are disguised as vegetables and taken out of the country. If a succulent has any medical qualities, they are even more at risk, Dr. Emily Wabuyele told the newspaper. The Daily Telegraph reports that a boom in the sale of houseplants in Europe and Asia has led to plants, some of them rare, being illegally exported from both Kenya and South Africa. There is a collecting mania. People want these wild plants which can grow for up to 100 years. They are being taken out by local people, some of whom have lost jobs during lockdown. South African expert Cornelia Clark has quoted saying, they are cleaning out the populations, including all the very, very old plants. This is the tragedy. They are not just picking off the seeds.
In our next story, Chinese elephants' epic expedition nearing an end. A herd of 14 Asian elephants is believed to be making its way home. The animals have traveled for hundreds of miles in southwest China in a trek that has made the headlines. The herd of wild Asian elephants have traveled more than 1,300 kilometers. Chinese wildlife protection officials believe a herd of 14 Asian elephants is heading home. The animals have traveled a route spanning more than 1,200 kilometers in the southwestern China Yunnan province. Authorities said the herd has managed to safely cross a bridge over the Wan River and are on the route heading south. That will make them to nature reserve 200 kilometers away.
You know, I have to say, given the travel restrictions we all have to observe due to COVID-19, I am quite jealous of these elephants. It's nice that they got to have a bit of a trip. Now, in the last of our top stories, Malawi, the pygmy chameleon has reappeared and needs protection more than ever. South African researchers are calling on the Malawian government to stop deforestation in Mukundi in the south of the country. According to researchers from the South African National Biodiversity Institute, the loss of vegetation cover in the Mukundi area could lead to the extermination of the Chapman's pygmy chameleon. In 2014, Christal Tolley and her colleagues at the South African National Biodiversity Institute have been trying in vain to find traces of the pygmy chameleon in Malawi, leading to fears of the worst for this species, which was first observed by scientists in 1992 in this East African country by the herpetologist Colin Tilbury. In another expedition, this time conducted in 2016, in the remaining forest patches of the Malawi hills, The researchers' efforts were successful. In the end, 38 adults and 11 juveniles were found in these forest patches, especially in the area near Mikundi. All right, that brings us to the end of our first batch of news. After the break, we're going to be taking a trip to WHO to figure out what Science in 5 has with regards to keeping us informed during this pandemic. Stick around.
Welcome back to Africa Good Morning. How much protection does the current batch of COVID-19 vaccine provide us? Would you need a booster shot for a new variant? What does science and evidence tell us about mass gatherings and the spread of COVID-19? WHO's chief scientist, Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, explains in Science in 5 this week.
Hello and welcome to Science in 5. I'm Vismita Gupta-Smith and we are talking about vaccines, variants and mass gatherings today. WHO's chief scientist, Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, will be talking to us about these issues. Welcome, Soumya.
Hello, Vismita. Nice to be back doing Science in 5.
What do we know today about how much protection these vaccines are giving us?
What's really important is that almost all of these vaccines are highly protective against severe disease, which leads very often to hospitalization and then, unfortunately, to death. So, while they may not completely prevent infection, the immunity that the body develops in response to vaccination is good enough to protect people from getting sick, even if they get the infection. We're also learning about protection against infection because this is something that wasn't clear from the trials, but in countries like Israel and the UK, which have been studying it very systematically, it appears that people who have received the first dose have about 70 to 80% protection against infection, and after the second dose, this could be even higher. Now, this may vary from vaccine to vaccine, so we cannot generalize. We need to collect more data. I think what's important to remember is that even as one gets vaccinated, we have to maintain all the other precautions and take all the other public health measures that WHO has been advocating, because each of these tools actually adds a layer of protection.
Soumya, with these variants out there, how much protection are these vaccines providing, and will people need booster shots to protect against these variants?
What has been shown so far is that if a person receives a full course of vaccination, then there's enough protective immunity in the body to protect against severe disease even from these variants. So even in the countries where there are a lot of variants circulating, people who have been vaccinated are not ending up in hospital or dying even if they do get the infection. So I think overall the news is positive. Companies and labs around the world are working on newer versions of the vaccine which accommodate the proteins of the variant virus. So I think in the next few months we will begin to see results from clinical trials which are looking at these new modified vaccines. And then we will be able to take a decision on whether people are going to need boosters or not.
Soumya, we are seeing that people are tired. It's been long periods of isolation and being locked up in your homes. And so there are these gatherings that are happening, whether they're smaller family gatherings or bigger gatherings, mass gatherings. What does our evidence and data say about what happens to COVID-19 transmission when we gather and not observe the public health precautions?
So we've known for quite some time now about how this virus spreads and what it likes. It likes close contact between people, it likes crowded environments, and it likes closed settings, indoor settings with poor ventilation, so that it can spread most efficiently from person to person. We also know that many of the variants that are circulating now, particularly the variants of concern, are much more efficient, 1.5 to 2 times more efficient at spreading. So the virus has got smarter at spreading, it's just looking for opportunities. We know mass gatherings, whether they are, gatherings for weddings or parties and pubs, or whether they are sporting events or religious events, that all of these have the potential to become mass spreading events. And we know from many documented research studies done last year that mass gatherings did result in a huge increase in infections, which are usually seen a couple of weeks later. So knowing all of this, I think it's really important. We understand that people are tired and they want to get back to normal life, but this is not the time to relax at all, because the vaccination programs in most countries have not even begun to approach the levels of herd immunity that we need. And so we need to recognize, people need to recognize that engaging in these kind of activities where we are gathering without any precautions is endangering not only themselves but the lives of their loved ones and friends, and particularly the older people and the vulnerable people in the community.
Thank you, Soumya. That was Science in 5 today. Until next time then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stick with science.
During the COVID-19 pandemic, if you're going out, always ask yourself, how many, how far, how open? How many people will be nearby? COVID-19 spreads more easily in crowded places. Avoid crowds. If not possible, wear a mask. How far apart will people be? The closer people are to one another, the easier it is for COVID-19 to spread. Stay at least 1 meter away from others. If not possible, wear a mask. How open will the space be? The virus spreads more easily in confined and enclosed spaces with poor ventilation. Keep your distance, open windows and doors, and if not possible, wear a mask. Remember that it's always safer to keep your distance, clean your hands, cough or sneeze into your elbow, wear a mask, and open a window. Know your risk, lower your risk.
If you're feeling how I'm feeling and you know I won't stop, all we gotta do is take our love to the top. If I got it and you want it and you'll never let it drop, all we gotta do is take our love to the top. I will ride for you, baby, even die for you. When I'm loving you, but my heart don't stop.
Welcome back to Africa Good Morning, as we keep delivering to you the news happening in the SADC region and beyond. Right now, we're going to take a trip to Zambia and have a chat with Mr. Mike Sichula about the happenings over there. Good morning, Mr. Sichula. How are you?
Africa, good morning. I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
We are fantastic, but we do not have the pressure of choosing a president tomorrow, which is, of course, what Zambia is currently in the process of doing, as the general elections start tomorrow with 16 presidential candidates up for the office. Could you tell us about this?
Yes, you have rightly put it. There are 16 presidential candidates, and out of those presidential candidates, there's only one female candidate. And the Zambian people are also going to vote for 156 parliamentary candidates as well as 1,858 councillors. In the picture there on your right, that's the Electoral Commission of Zambia chairperson, Justice Esau Chulu, who is probably going to announce the presidential winner. According to what the electoral body has said, they are projecting to announce the presidential winner in the next 72 hours after Thursday. So likely by the weekend, the country should know who the next president of Zambia will be. Then what they have done is that they have ensured that all the election materials have been delivered to all the polling stations. So in terms of voting, the voting hours is going to commence at 06 in the morning and close at 18 hours in the evening. Then today, 18 hours, all election campaigns are going to cease so that voting takes place tomorrow from as early as 6 hours, like I've stated. So this is how the state of affairs is in Zambia. Everything is in place. It's just awaiting for people to cast their vote.
All right, now the government has warned to shut down the internet services on election day if people abuse the facility by posting a fake news. Please tell us more.
Yes, in previous elections, there have been the abuse, what the government calls the abuse of social media, where unconfirmed or unverified election results have been announced. And this has become a source of concern because they believe it causes anxiety amongst members of the public, and it also leads to acts of violence for those who may believe that they have lost the elections. And also the government is threatening because they are thinking when there's abuse of social media in terms of fake news on what is happening and what is not happening, it has a likelihood that it could increase voter apathy. Hence, the government is doing that. But a number of civil society organizations have condemned government for this threat that internet provided. They are saying that should not be the case. Let people freely use the social media platforms to communicate with whoever they want. So it's a wait and see situation as to whether it is going to happen or not.
All right, now in our next story, health authorities have promised to ease restrictions imposed on the local economy following a spike in coronavirus cases. Could you please expand on this, Mike?
Yes, like I did state earlier this week, that the Ministry of Health is targeting a positivity rate of less than below 5%. At present, the rate of positivity in the highly desolated populations have remained low. So this is giving the Ministry of Health the confidence that in the coming 2 weeks or so, there's a likelihood that restrictions that have been imposed on many businesses like restaurants, bars, nightclubs, as well as casinos are going to be relaxed so that people can get back to normal under the new normal. So the issue is that for bars and nightclubs, these have been restricted to operate on a takeaway basis, but business has gone down for the owners of these facilities who have been heavily complaining, because just listen to the government announced a 21-day extension as to on how they should operate. They should continue to operate on takeaway basis, but this has angered the association that represents bars and taverns of Zambia.
All right, now the final story is so sad. A local film producer has had their entire studio gutted by fire barely a week after another artist lost all his household goods and music equipment through an inferno. Please tell us more.
Yes, this is a sad development to the film industry in Zambia, because the film producer is behind the series called Ubuntu series, which is a popular series on pay television channel Zambezi Magic, and a lot of people follow it because it is born out of a Zambian idea, and it has managed to penetrate international media platforms. So the cause of the fire has not yet been established, but the damage is extensive, as you can see from the pictures there. Almost everything in that studio, located in the situated in the suburbs of Lusaka, was gutted to ashes, and one of the crew members is actually admitted in hospital. Is suffering from internal burns that he sustained during the inferno at this studio. So authorities are yet to establish what could have caused the fire, but the film industry in Zambia has more or less like gone a step behind in terms of what Zambian local film producers can produce. Because as you know, equipment for some of these productions are high, and it will always be very difficult to come back. Like you indicated, it is coming barely a week after another popular musician in Zambia called Tishon. His house was burnt to ashes in unclear circumstances, and he also lost some of his musical records and other equipment in the inferno.
Truly saddening news. We certainly hope those creative artists can get the kind of support that allows them to get back into business. And of course, those who need to recover from the inferno, we certainly hope for a speedy recovery. Thank you very much, Mike, for bringing us the news from Zambia. We look forward to your election update after tomorrow's elections.
Thank you very much. And indeed, a number of followers have come forward to contribute to the musician who lost his properties. Yes, I'll certainly keep our viewers updated on the elections that are taking place tomorrow. Thank you.
It's wonderful to see Ubuntu Abantu in action in spite of it all. This is still Africa Good Morning. Next up, weather forecast.
Welcome back to Africa. Good morning and happy Wednesday. Right now it's time for us to cross over to Mzansi, where Ari Holhad is ready to give us an update on everything happening in South Africa. Good morning, Ari. How are you?
Yes, a very good morning, Aina. Nice to talk to you. It's a lovely day here in Cape Town, and we'll talk some South African news.
All right. Now, we understand that the former President Jacob Zuma has been hospitalized and that his trial has been postponed to the 9th of September. Please tell us more.
Indeed, it was heard in the High Court, KwaZulu-Natal High Court yesterday, and Judge Piet Koen, he put out the notice that the trial will be postponed to the 9th of September, and that there's a few things that the legal team of the former President Zuma need to do. They need to provide a medical report by 20 August. Just to confirm, in court proceedings yesterday, there wasn't stated what medical condition former President Zuma suffered from at the moment, so that needs to be done. And then Judge Koen also said that there must be an independent medical person, doctor appointed to also evaluate the situation. So that is postponed to the 9th of September, and it's related to the corruption charges former President Zuma must face. It is 16 charges related to 783 payments he allegedly received from Shabir Sheikh way back almost 15 years ago. And Shabir Sheikh was found guilty in this case for the same facts. I can say that is Shabir Sheikh. He was found guilty and he was sentenced to 15 years in jail. But in 2009, he got medical parole for being terminally ill. So he's been out of jail since then, but he's apparently in good health. The definition of terminally ill was that it's at the end stage and cannot be cured or treated and is expected to result in death. So it's a big definition for terminally ill, but that is a bit controversial still in South Africa, how Shabir Sheikh got out of jail, so to speak, because he was terminally ill. But I suppose it is possible that you can be cured, but that needs to be investigated, I would say. But the case has been postponed to the 9th of September. That is related to former President Zuma.
All right, now in the next story, Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy, Gwede Mantashe, has indicated that the unrest of July has had a negative effect on fuel supply in South Africa. Could you tell us more about that?
I think South Africa is just getting to terms with what the cost of those unrest really was. It was 2-3 days of madness. The number mentioned was 50 billion that was wiped off the GDP. So there's also a knock-on effect on the fuel supplies. It's not urgent at the moment. The Minister, Gwede Mantashe, just put out a caution and say that they confirmed that it led to a negative effect on the fuel supply in South Africa at the moment. BP and Shell, they've got big refineries in that region, and they supply 35% of South Africa's capacity. How it works is South Africa gets crude oil that they import, and it goes to the refineries, and then the fuel, the petrols and the fuels are produced there. So that about 24,000 tons per day is handled at that refinery. That's the refinery there close to Durban. And it equates to about 2.7 million liters of petrol that is produced there every year. Like I said, 35% capacity of South Africa is not urgent at the moment, but that did have a negative effect on the fuel supply in South Africa.
All right, now the Western Cape is experiencing a third wave of infections, while cases in Gauteng have significantly slowed down. Please tell us more.
Yes, I think like all over the world, COVID-19 is a reality. In Cape Town, where I also live, we still experience the spike. There's a closer effort to normality, if I can call it that. Like, the children go to school, they're allowed a bit more interaction. They can play sport, etc. But still, there's officially a third wave in Cape Town. Cape Town still has 2,000 cases daily. There's 6,000 new cases daily reported in South Africa, 2,000 in Cape Town or the Western Cape, and 1,400 KwaZulu-Natal. The Gauteng region is relieved from their status as a third wave. They're down to 1,000 cases a day. That is very good news. So at the moment, there's a big focus on vaccinations, obviously, in South Africa. It is going a little bit slower than what the government wants it to happen. They aim for 300,000 vaccinations a day. Yesterday, there was 176,000, so it's a bit down. At the moment, 9.3 million people in South Africa vaccinated, and of those, 3.7 million is fully vaccinated, meaning like the Pfizer vaccinations, you need 2 of them. So 3.7 million have got 2 vaccinations already. So it's an ongoing process in South Africa, but at least it is a little bit down from previous weeks, 6,000 new cases a day at the moment.
All right, now in your next story, Ari, the South Gauteng High Court made a ruling yesterday that Mango Airline is allowed to go into voluntary business rescue. Could you tell us about that?
Yes, the airlines were under pressure even before COVID-19. So COVID-19 didn't help at all. So we all know South African Airways facing massive challenges. Mango Airlines is a low-cost airline. It's a subsidiary of South African Airlines, very popular in South Africa on all the major routes in South Africa. But they've been battling, obviously, COVID-19, a massive influence there. So the judge yesterday dismissed the application of 3 unions to put Mango in business rescue, but they were put in voluntary business rescue, meaning that just mean that they've got a bigger say who the business rescue practitioners will be in this process. So there's lots of work to be done. They've got 700 staff. Mango, they're still flying at the moment, and they're still also waiting for South African Airways to pay them about 817 million South African rand. That's part of the business rescue that SAA got. And so there is a plan. So hopefully the business rescue will work. At least people are starting to fly a little bit more now. The plane's a little bit fuller. So South Africa trying to get back to normal again with business deals.
All right, we are very excited to learn that the Olympics champion will indeed receive bonus payments. Please tell us more.
Yeah, I think the challenge was that if you've done it in 2016, it's difficult not to do it again. So I think the people that won the medals are quite humble, and they wait for something to happen. But the president, Nathi Ntwekwa, he announced yesterday that there will be bonuses paid to the athletes that received medals in Tokyo. There were quite a few medals in 2016, I think 16 of them. But at the moment, it's Tatjana Schoenmaker. She's the swimmer. She won gold and silver. And then that is Tatjana Schoenmaker. She did brilliant. That's a gold medal for her. And then also Bianca Buitendach. She won a silver medal in the surfing. Great achievement for her. That is Bianca Buitendach, a silver medal for her. Those are the medals. So 3 medals applicable there. In 2016, the SASCOC paid for gold medals 500,000 South African rand, and for silver 250,000 rand, and 100,000 for a bronze. The sport minister also added 100,000 for the gold and 70,000 for silver. So maybe there's something. It probably won't be the same amounts, but glad to say that's a feel-good story for today. They did brilliant. It's so difficult to win medals, and well, for sure to win a gold medal at the Olympics. So well done to them. I think they deserve a little bit of a bonus. So that's the feel-good story for today.
Thank you very much, Ari. We certainly believe those 2 champions deserve to be rewarded. Thank you very much for bringing us the news from South Africa.
All the best. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, this is still Africa Good Morning. After the break, your economic news stories. Welcome back to Africa. Good morning. As promised, it's time for us to get into your economic news stories for the day. And first, we are talking about charcoal. Every year, Europeans use approximately 800,000 tons of charcoal for barbecuing. 70% of the charcoal comes from outside the EU, and the bags often contain remnants of tropical woods. Officially, tropical woods are subject to strict import conditions, but when it comes to wood charcoal, these do not apply. Worldwide, 2.7 billion people cook and heat with wood or charcoal. 55% of global wood is used as fuel per year, and much of it is cut illegally in Africa's bush and tropical forests. According to the UN, charcoal production is one of the main causes of deforestation in Africa, which in turn is closely linked to massive deterioration in soil quality and a growing risk of crop failure. But African legislation has been slow to respond to the problem, and the local coal business is a highly lucrative business and rakes in some 7.4 billion US dollars a year. According to recent estimates, the current illegal trade in charcoal is worth almost 3 times as much as the trade in illegal drugs.
In our next story, vaccine pioneer BioNTech reverses its financial fortunes after shipping more than 1 billion doses. Ed Sahin, CEO and co-founder of BioNTech, said, "We and our partner Pfizer have crossed the 1 billion mark for COVID-19 vaccine doses shipped worldwide. We are proud to have reached this great milestone only after 6 months and to have made a difference for people with our proprietary mRNA technology." The company said more than 1 billion doses of its coronavirus vaccine had been supplied as of the 21st of July and that it had signed agreements to supply approximately 2.2 billion doses.
All right, in our next story, Tanzania overtakes Kenya as Uganda's largest import source in EAC. Tanzania capped an 8-month surge in exports to Uganda during June, replacing Kenya as Uganda's biggest source of imports within the East African community, according to data from Bank of Uganda. Uganda's imports from Tanzania have for the last 3 months doubled, increasing by an average of 18%. During June, Uganda imported goods worth 125.12 million from Tanzania, indicating a 43% surge from 70.07 million in the same period last year. This put Tanzania ahead of Kenya as Uganda's main source of imports within EAC. According to data from Uganda Bureau of Statistics, major imports from Tanzania include gold, rice, trailers and semi-trailers, rolled iron and non-alloy steel, and dried and salted fish, as well as rice and wheat.
Africa-Singapore trade on the up and up in the last 5 years. Trade between Singapore and Africa has been growing at the compound annual growth rate over 7.6% over the past 5 years, a senior official said at the weekend. Singapore is among the top 10 investors in Africa, with over 100 Singaporean companies operating across 50 countries in oil and gas, consumer, digital, agribusiness, and trade sector. Speaking at the virtual media briefing about the Singapore African Business Forum in 2021 edition, Ms. Lin Neo, Regional Director of Enterprise Singapore, said the forum would serve as a platform for holistic engagement between Singapore, Asia, and Africa.
Now, in the last of our economic news stories, we swing back to Tanzania. As oceans warm, Zanzibar's women sea farmers grow sponges to stay afloat. Nasir Hassan Haji never thought of herself as a farmer or a swimmer, but as she waded into Zanzibar's blue waters with goggles pulled over her headscarf to examine her floating sponge farm, she realized she had surprised herself by becoming both. Alongside 12 other women in Jambiani village on the Indian Ocean coast, Haji has come to rely on the climate-resilient natural sponges bobbing on thick ropes where they grow for months before the women harvest, clean and sell them to shops and tourists. Haji and other women are dependent on the ocean for their livelihoods. From seaweed farming to fishing and tourism have seen warmer rising areas threaten their work, but they are adapting by finding ways to diversify what they do to get by. We love to see innovation. This is Still Africa. Good morning. Those were your economic news stories. You know what comes up next: economic indicators. Welcome back to Africa Good Morning. It's time for us to get into your sports news updates. First, we're talking about Formula One as Formula One calendar, a game of chess due to COVID-19. Formula One should emerge from the August break with a clearer calendar for the rest of the season, but there are still plenty of possible scenarios due to COVID-19 and shifting circumstances, according to McLaren racing boss Zak Brown. The sport has planned a record 23 race championship in 2021, with 12 still to come. I think it is a bit of a chess game of what happens in this market and it goes on the red list or what have you, and there's a domino effect. I've heard a variety of scenarios. Brown hoped the success of the Tokyo Olympics, which ended on Sunday and featured more than 50,000 people operating within a closely controlled bubble, would boost the Formula One race at Suzuka. From what I can tell, there hasn't been any drama that's broken out from the Olympics, so to me it does seem that they would raise more confidence, said Brown.
In our next story, Australia searches for positive after Bangladesh defeat. Standing Australia captain Matthew Wade looked for positive in their bowling after being crushed by 60 runs in the total 2020 international of a 5-match series against Bangladesh on Monday. The Aussies were bowled out for their lowest ever 2020 score of 62 runs in the final match of 4-1 defeat in a series after restricting Bangladesh to 122-8 at the Sher Air Bangla National Stadium. Australia had lost to Bangladesh in the 2020 international before coming to this tour. Bangladesh dominated the series where both teams were found it hard to score.
All right, in our next story, I would like Percy Tau to come to Al Ahly. This is according to Pitso Mosimane. Pitso Mosimane has lifted the lid on the possibility of signing Percy Tau from English Premier League side Brighton and Hove Albion. Al Ahly have shown keen interest in luring the Bafana Bafana international to Cairo. Mosimane and Tau enjoyed a trophy-laden spell at Mamelodi Sundowns, where the duo lifted multiple league titles and the 2016 CAF Champions League. I would like Percy Tau to come here, and any coach would like to have him. Percy is a showman. He is like Lionel Messi. He has so much to show you. Let's give him a chance to show that. I would like to sign Percy if Brighton agrees to sell him. If we can pay him, he must come.
In our next story, cricket and Olympic sports. It could be. The International Cricket Council has confirmed its intention to bid for cricket's inclusion in the Olympics. The ICC has brought together a working group to lead the bid with the aim of cricket becoming an Olympic sport by Los Angeles in 2028. We believe cricket would be a great addition to the Olympic Games, but we know it won't be easy to secure our inclusion as there are so many other great sports out there wanting to do the same. But we feel now is the time to put our best foot forward and show what a great partnership cricket and the Olympics could be, Greg Barkley, the ICC chair, said. There has only been one cricket match played at the Olympics. In 1,924 players from France and Great Britain took part in the low-scoring test match. England and Wales Cricket Board Chairperson Ian Watmore will chair the ICC Olympic Working Group.
Ooh, I would love to see that. You give me T20 at the Olympics, I'm booking my flight to Paris now. Now, in the last of our sports stories, Tyson Fury's newborn baby, unfortunately in intensive care. British heavyweight champion Tyson Fury's newborn baby is in intensive care. The 32-year-old boxer and his wife Paris welcomed their 6th child together, a baby girl named Athena, on Sunday morning, and Fury has revealed that the newborn is in ICU but is stable. He wrote on Twitter, "Massive thanks for all the messages and support. The baby is in a stable position and doing well. Hopefully she comes out of ICU today. Please keep baby Athena in your prayers. Paris is doing great. God bless." All right, we certainly hope that that baby makes it out. Of course, if the baby has the fighting spirit of the father, we know there's nothing that can knock Athena down and keep her there. This is still Africa Good Morning. It's been a pleasure bringing you your news stories. After the break, we'll bring you your headlines. Africa Good Morning has been streaming live from 7 a.m. And here are the headlines from today's top stories. Mali, dozens of civilians massacred in militant raids on villages. Tanzania President Samia, we are here to show that women can lead. First case of Marburg virus detected in West Africa after man dies in Gokedu. Global response needed to counter rising security threats at sea. We were talking about charcoal. Formula One calendar, a game of chess due to COVID-19. Those have been our stories.
Thank you very much for joining us. Please do not forget to visit our website, OneUp2, for more content. We do welcome your remarks regarding our show. You can email them to us. Our email is agm_2centsworth@nmh.com.na. Alternatively, we are on Facebook and Twitter. It's at Africa Good Morning. Remember to play your part against the fight for COVID-19 and remember, we can all beat COVID-19 together.
Absolutely. We have 3 full days left in the week. Make them count. Until tomorrow, Suraj Laganaka.